Alright, I am Professor Collins, and welcome to the Excel workshop. So today our workshop objectives are to calculate central tendency, and specifically mean, median, and mode, as well as dispersion for both nominal, ordinal, and interval ratio type of data. So that should be ratio. So first, you're going to need your data analysis pack. So the way to do that is go to your file function. So your Excel probably isn't going to have this options, and then you'll see all sorts of different options here. Click on the add-ins, and you'll see your data analysis tool pack. So there should be a way to add that in somewhere in your Excel. So if you don't see that, just add it in, and you should be able to add it in fairly easily. Alright, click OK, and you are good to go. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to analyze the data to get central tendency. And so what we're going to want to do here is click over to our raw data. So I need to deal with this. Okay, so we're going to click here over to our raw data, and I'm going to scroll all the way up to the top here, and so you can see our raw data. So again, we have our nominal, ordinal, and interval type of data. And as you can see, in previous videos we had 99s, negative 99s, where there were missing data. I took those out because in central tendency it's actually going to analyze that data, and we don't want that whatsoever. So for the data analysis, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a couple ways to do this. One is through functions in Excel, so basically like equations, and two is through the data analysis pack. So to go over this just real quickly, the greens are the same two variables, the blues are the same two variables, right? The difference is this is the numerical equivalent to this right here. So every week equals 2. And so we really want, what we're going to be doing is when we're conducting things like central tendency, we actually want the numerical value of the qualitative equivalent, or of the response option. And the numerical value is important because without the numerical representation of the response option, we can't conduct statistics, right? Because if you tell Excel to run, say, a count or a minimum, it doesn't know what the minimum is. It doesn't know that other is, say, a 6, whereas I got an announcement from a card from a vendor is a 1, right? It just simply doesn't know that. And so Excel is interesting because it's extremely literal. So it can't guess at all what you're trying to do. You have to be extremely precise and literal with Excel. So real quick, using our nominal variables, let's go down to the bottom of our data set here, and I'm just going to cheat. And so what we're going to want to do is first let's calculate central tendency. All right. And so for our first variable here, we're going to want to calculate the mode, right? And so what we do here for the mode for our variable here, so what we're going to want to do is simply type in mode. And so we're going to want to do the mode single, right? Returns the most frequently occurring or repetitive value in a range of data. And so we'll double click that. And so what this first number is going to do is we're going to actually select a range. So what you can do is click on here and hold on to this corner and scroll it all the way to the top. So when you have large sets of data, this can be a bit of a burden, as you can see, because it can take a long time. So we only have 500 and something cases, about 550 cases, and that's actually not a whole lot of data. When you start getting into the thousands, you can see that this might become sort of a daunting task. Then what we want to do is close our parentheses. You can see here up at the top that I close the parentheses in the formula and press enter. And it looks like I actually, did I mess that up? Nope, I didn't. Okay, I thought I brought it real good. So what we can see here is the most frequently occurring, or the mode, is the number 1. And what I've done here is I've created these little notes, and so you can right-click and add a comment, right? Add or edit a comment. And so what I've done is just to identify what is what. What we can see is the most frequently occurring here is I got an announcement card from a vendor. So it's nice to know that the number 1, what each of those numerical representations mean. Alright, so that's the mode for a frequency table, or excuse me, not a frequency table, for a nominal type of variable. Then we can do the median for a ordinal type of variable. And so central tendency there, and so actually I'm going to put that here so it's in the same line. And we do the same sort of thing. Right, so we start typing in median, and the cool thing about Excel is it brings it up, right? It brings up the formula that you're trying to use, or the command. So the median, exact same thing. What we're doing here is we're highlighting the column. And so one little cheat here, what I like to do is I hold Control-Shift, and I press the up key. And I just hold it until it gets all the way to the top. It's a little faster than dragging, and it's slightly more precise. But still, it can take a while, right? Oh, it's still not there. There we go. Okay, and then we close the parentheses, press enter, and now we have our median, right? So the median is the exact middle score. So if we took all 558-ish, or I guess I should say 556 scores that we have on this variable, and strung them all out into a line, the score that occurred exactly in the middle would be the median. So now let's take a look at the mean, right? And so we're going to calculate a mean for annual household income. So unlike the median and mode, the mean is a little bit different. The mean is the arithmetic average, or the arithmetic average of a set of scores, right? So it's the average. Let's put it plain and simple, it's the average. So here, we're going to type in average, and we're just going to click average, and again, the exact same thing. We're going to highlight all of our scores, right? Close the parentheses, press enter, and there we have our average. So what this is telling us is our average income here is about $73,000 a year. So it draws it out, of course, because it's an average, but we can kind of bring this in a little bit. And we can put a number behind it, or excuse me, a dollar sign, right? So this tells us our average. So now let's take a look at dispersion, right? So here we're going to want a range, and specifically the minimum and the maximum, right? So what we're going to want to do here is the same sort of idea, highlighting our cells. And so for the minimum, we're going to type in minimum, right? Returns the smallest number, opens the parentheses, same sort of idea, right? Okay, so the minimum is 1, max, and so remember, the range is simply the lowest score and the highest score, right? So that is the range. It's the lowest score and the highest score. If you want the actual range, right, the numerical range, you could do something like this, minimum minus maximum, and your range would be, should do that the other way, let's try that again, equals minimum, excuse me, maximum minus minimum, and our range would be 5, right? We can do the same thing for ordinal variables, looking for the minimum and maximum. But let's say we're interested in the standard deviation, if you could spell it correctly. Now the standard deviation is slightly different, and there's several different calculations you're going to want to use for the standard deviation. So what I'm going to do here is do, of course, the equal sign, and standard deviation is STD, and we want the standard deviation .s. And the reason for that is it's the standard deviation based on a sample, as opposed to the population, right? Standard deviation based on a population versus standard deviation based on a sample. Here we solely have a sample, we do not have a population. Therefore, we want the standard deviation of the sample, not of a population. So let's double click that, go here, boom, we'll roll it all the way up, close the parentheses, and there we go. So we have a fairly large standard deviation, and we'll bring this in again just to highlight the numerical value. So we have a standard deviation of 56,521. It's a fairly large standard deviation. Now let's do this another way, a much quicker, easier way, and we will do this using the data pack. And just to make this example a little bit quicker, I'll do this example solely on the interval. I'll do it on interval and ordinal, just so you guys can see. So what we'll do here is we'll go to data, we'll go to data analysis, and we'll go to descriptive statistics. So what we'll do is say OK, and another dialog box will pop up. And we'll click on this little button here as the input range, and we'll go here and here, and just highlight all of these cells. Right? Just make sure we have them all. Then we'll click back on here, and it's going to create a new worksheet. You can name it descriptives if you'd like. And will the largest 1% and smallest one, the largest number and the smallest number, that'll give us our range, our minimum and our maximum. And then this will give us, we want to make sure this box is clicked for summary statistics. And we'll click OK. And as you see, a new tab opened up here at the bottom with descriptive and our variables, right? And actually, just so this is a little more visible, I'm going to do this and this. Alright. So the cool thing about this, it gives us all of our information. Everything that we just calculated, it gives us all right with that one little thing. So we have our mean, our standard error, our standard deviation, our median, our mode, sample variance, even our kurtosis and skewness, which is something we're not really going to get into much here. It also gives our range, our minimum, our maximum, our sum, our count, the smallest, and our largest and smallest, right? So this is our range here, our largest and smallest. So this is a nice, really fast, easy way to conduct the same way, or the same analysis that we just conducted. There are reasons for doing it this way, like we did down here using hand calculations, but for the most part, this is going to be the fast and easy way to do it. So at the end of this, you should know how to calculate mean, median, and mode with Excel, as well as dispersion. Thank you for watching.